live?
I hope we're not live.
About to go live.
I hope we are.
That's last four, but we could go live now.
I'll let you know if we're live.
Oh, I think we're live. I see the red coming up here, buddy.
There we are.
Are we live?
I'll double check
on my
live.
channel.
Oh yeah, we're live.
We should be live.
Are we on your channel
live.
too? We're on Denver Riggleman at Substack, ladies and gentlemen, former Congressman Denver Riggleman, the Breach Media, Riggs, I call him, or Den, or the Bigfoot porn specialist, America's Bigfoot porn specialist. No, I'm gonna attach that to you like a carabiner.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I mean, I had no idea that, and it's obviously a new market. People didn't know there was a Bigfoot porn market until Denver brought it to everyone's attention. So
I'm telling you, somebody else brought it to the attention. However, I will tell you this: I was gypped. I don't know if you guys know this or not. Let me tell you what happened. So there was an article. They called it the Riggleman Bump, where Pornhub had an 8,000% increase in Bigfoot porn searches. I didn't get a piece of that.
There's a lawsuit there, you could
bullshit.
You should get a piece of that. Did I find out that there was a bunch of Chabad religious Jews that now own Pornhub? I thought that was the weirdest thing ever. That's who decided to buy Pornhub.
Yeah, out of Canada. Yeah.
Is that weird?
Yeah,
it's weird.
It is weird.
Hey, listen, I tend not to look down on anybody for their predilection to watching people do things with each other in loving and wholesome ways. The problem I have is that we have a Bigfoot porn specialist here. That is not loving, nor is it wholesome. However, it does fit into.
We cannot
fit in. No, it's a lie. But it was one that was perpetrated by the libs, if you will. So it's a lib conspiracy, and we'll get to it in just a second. But I think what Denver you're talking about when you wrote a book called Bigfoot is Complicated, and you did that because you wanted to prove to people that there are a lot of different similarities between conspiracy theorists and MAGA, Bigfoot and UFO chasers, which if you've read Bigfoot is Complicated or any excerpts from it, he's 100% right. But here's the great part. After it came out, where the left is like, we need to go get that MAGA Republican Denver Riggleman who just likes to talk about conspiracy theories, they said his real penchant was for Bigfoot pornography.
They did.
I don't get the attention of the MAGAs, but here's the thing. I think you deserve not only credit, you deserve revenue from hirsute porn where there's a lot of hair.
Isn't there a
70s Greek porn?
I agree.
There's a market for that, right? There's a furry market. People who are very interested in that now, they could be the furry Bigfoot market.
I'm honored and humbled that you would think that I deserve such an honor, like such honorarium.
We have so much news to go to today. It's going to be exciting.
But I'm not done with this piece.
You're still there? You still ruminate on Bigfoot?
Well, just to kind of put a bullet in it, Denver had great intentions. Olivia Wilde's mom, who he was running against in Virginia, was the one that basically said, my MAGA or my GOP nemesis.
Yeah, MAGA was. Yeah,
it was Olivia Wilde's mom. That was like
it was, and Olivia Wilde was dating Jason Sudeikis. She was dating Jason Sudeikis, and that's how I got on Saturday Night Live. That's how they pilloried me on Saturday Night Live, and then people started to come to my defense because they couldn't believe that even though this was a conspiracy theory, which is insane because I wrote a book about conspiracy theories that was used to do disinformation conspiracy theory on me.
You got it.
But then the Democrats started to come to my aid because they said I was being kink shamed. So now we have layers. You make up that I have Bigfoot porn. Then I get excoriated for Bigfoot porn. I get made fun of on Saturday Night Live. And then the Democrats come to my defense because of kink shaming on something that never happened. So it was a layer cake of insanity. So here we are.
And then you help save the Republic through your incredible work as an investigator for the January 6th committee. So it all makes sense, really.
Yeah, he wasn't mad at America for being named America's #1 kink shaming Bigfoot porn guy.
Unbelievable.
He went to work for America. That's how altruistic Denver is. Not even being framed as America's #1 Bigfoot porn guy. He was like, you know what? I'll take it, and I'm just going to go save America, join the J6 committee, and let Ginny Thomas and Clarence get away with murder. So that's the way.
Yeah. And you're #1 on Google Images.
Yeah,
Keep it in.
it's a good day. It's a good
We
day.
have competition today, you know, guys. We're up against Melania Trump, the First Lady. She's hosting a UN Security Council meeting today. So, you know, so our audience may decline as people go and watch Melania talk about terror and children and worst timing ever. We'll dip in as soon as she starts, just so everyone can, you know, we get to see her, get to know who she, you know, what she's doing. I'm sure it's a really appropriate day to have Melania chair this meeting. I can't imagine who came up with this timing, but it's top notch.
Anyway,
yeah.
Glad you're all here. Glad Denver's here. Let's get to the FiveStack, the 5 biggest breaking news stories of the day with former Congressman and J6 committee member and just all around beauty. That's how we refer to guys like him in Canada. He's just a fucking beauty, guys. Denver Riggleman. That is Mr. Zev Shalev, narrative.org. I am Dean Blundell from deanblundell.substack.com. Let's start with number 5, Zev. Show us the way, my friend.
It's really a lot of breaking news, obviously, on Iran. Day 3 of the US-Israeli war in Iran, and the quagmire is already forming. I mean, we've seen this movie before. A few days becomes a few weeks, becomes 4 weeks. That's according to the president this morning. And then he says maybe even far more. Bush, at least, had the military with him when he was declaring mission accomplished on the aircraft carrier. We haven't quite got there yet. But the reality of it is we've now got 4 U.S. service members killed. A 4th died Monday from injuries in the initial Iranian salvos. The dead were members of a sustained unit in Kuwait. There's also been 3 American F-15E Strike Eagles shot down, not by Iran, by Kuwait. And I remember this from the first Gulf War. That's how old I am. You know, this is what happens when you start wars in that region. Even friendly fire becomes problematic. And this is what happened in Kuwait. And here we are yet again in another regional war with the U.S. embassy in Kuwait hit by an Iranian drone today. A hotel in Bahrain struck. 2 DOD employees injured in that Bahrain strike. So it's a lot to take care of. But of course, the biggest story is the Ayatollah is gone, and that's a big deal. What happens next is everyone's question. And I'll hand it over to you, Dean, because I'd like to hear your thoughts about that very issue. You know, the top of the head of the snake may be gone, but the snake is still there.
Yeah, much like Venezuela, if you remember, regime change wasn't really regime change in Venezuela. And as equipped as I am to talk about this, due to my extensive interest in it, I did not, put warheads on foreheads in the Middle East. The man in the middle of our show here has Mr. Denver Riggleman, former congressman. He is a United States Air Force veteran that was deeply involved in that. You're watching this, and you sent me something this morning, Denver, about the U.S. service people that have passed. We've got dozens of injuries, shrapnel injuries. We have serious injuries, and now we have 4 U.S. service people dead. Maybe you can sort of lead off, and as much as I appreciate Zev handing it to me, I'm going to hot potato this issue to someone with a wealth of experience. Lead us off about what you're seeing, the impetus for this, which is, we heard regime change. Pete Hegseth stands up at the stump today. It's like, this isn't about regime change. And we've now heard 7, if I'm to, count my excuses with impunity, 7 different reasons that the United States and Israel have started to drop bombs indiscriminately across Iran and have started a Middle East war, which is really what it is now, Iran going after 9 countries. But I'm going to throw it over to Denver Riggleman, of course, Denver After Dark, as you can see his little thing. I mean, you know what's going on here. You've mission planned for this kind of shit. You understand what illegal and legal orders are. How do you feel about this today?
Gracious. I tell you, first of all, when Zev talked about the F-15Es, I want to tell you guys, I was initially trained on F-15Es as an F-15E intelligence officer. They allowed me to get stick time. I got to take the weapons apart, but I also was an integrated air defense expert. And we can talk about why the F-15s were shot down, why the mission planning was faulty. We can do that. But before that, what's interesting is I would say by definition, Zev and Dean, if you execute the leader of a country, that's probably based on regime change. I mean, there's not. It's a ludicrous statement to change to change your mission parameters right after you started. I think also when you're talking about those who have died, the 4 service members, I think you're starting to see this little ripple of anger. I've had text messages this morning from former B1 Bubbas and people who knew them, but also from individuals who I served with in other capacities. And they're like, they are not angry in any way or sad that Khomeini's dead. I've talked about this before, when Soleimani died in 2020, people might not know this either, that in 2006 and 2007, we tracked Soleimani in the Counter ID Operations Integration Center. When I worked joint ops with the National Security Agency, I actually headed the cryptologic service group there. And, so the fact that Soleimani and Khomeini are both dead after what they did to our troops in Iraq, people don't remember that Iran actually did the resupply into Iraq for IEDs. Improvised explosive devices. So I was part of that planning to try to stop that. And it was Iran that started with explosively formed penetrators, which were very lethal to American troops. All that being said, and the reason I'm talking about this is that right now, I don't know what the specific mission parameters are or how we get out of this. And I also think that they're fumbling and stumbling based on the fact that casualties happen so quickly. You already have, 3 planes that were shot down in friendly fire. You have issues with mission, and you have Iran, instead of specifically going after Israel, splatter bombing people from UAE to Bahrain to Kuwait, right? So I think what you have right now is a confused and incompetent administration that didn't know the mission, that went in for other reasons, most likely probably for, rationalization for stealing the elections or changing the election parameters. Number 2, personal gain for Donald Trump, right, based on what Saudi Arabia or what anybody who called him wanted at the time, including Bibi. I think the third thing was polling. I think you have this sort of this triangle, this chair that they thought that they could actually get over by bombing Iran. Now, again, it's a weird thing for me personally. Dean and I had talked about this. It's a very weird thing for me personally because I'm glad Khomeini's dead. I was glad when Soleimani died. But there has to be something where you separate the military, where you want to destroy this individual who killed Americans, from the strategic objectives of what's best for American citizens. That's called being an adult in the room.
Yeah.
And right now we have no adults. And I think that's the issue that I have with this whole operation. There's no exit strategy. We don't know why we went in. Obviously, I guess we didn't obliterate their nuclear program, but we have no nuclear program. We have Lindsey Graham saying there's no plan, and we have Ted Cruz saying there was no indication. Ted Cruz himself, no indication of any nuclear program advancements. So I'm not quite sure what the hell we're doing there right now. And if we're putting people in harm's way without a strategic objective, that's the fault of the government, and it's a disservice to U.S. citizens and those who give their lives or sacrifice their lives for our country.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of agreement on Khomeini. I mean, everyone wanted him gone. That's fine. He's dead, and no one's really objecting to that. But now we're in the grips of a quagmire again. Here we are, the United States again in the Middle East. The entire region is inflamed. I want to play you the president from today talking about what could be far longer in terms of a timeline. And I mean, this is a stunning comment from someone who said it was just going to be a few days.
He'll get bored. I don't get bored.
Oops, maybe I can play it again.
We have the strongest and most powerful by far military in the world, and we will easily prevail. We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always, and we have right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it. Whatever somebody said today, they said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly. After that, he'll get bored. I don't get bored.
So he did actually say it was only going to be a few days. And now he's saying it's 4 weeks, possibly, and far longer is what he's talking about as well. That sounds like we're back in the days of Iraq and the first and second Gulf War, both of which sort of went astray. The first one was a little cleaner, but it's the same thing again, Denver.
Well, and again, I don't want to dominate this segment. You guys, I'm sure, have a lot to say, but there's 92 million people in Iran. This is not Venezuela. This isn't even Afghanistan. Iran is formidable, right? With the IRGC, the Quds forces, it's formidable. We're never going to go on the ground there. So what is the objective? And if to get Iran to some kind of agreement to what? Is it another nuclear deal? Are we redoing the JCPOA that Trump didn't want and I actually voted against? Right, we can have that whole discussion. So are we now back to the JCPOA? What are we doing? And I think that's the issue when you have incompetence and sycophants and yes people around, the president is they don't know what they're doing. And yeah, here's the issue. I'm going to make a prediction. It ain't going to be 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And now I think it's going to be longer, but I think there's going to be a ripple effect where this is back and forth for a long time now, because now you have infrastructure destruction going on within the Middle East. I mean, look at the Straits of Hormuz right now. What are we doing to do there? I mean, this is a big deal. If 20 to 25% of oil shipments are stopped, or you're talking about any type of economic flows to the Straits of Hormuz, what do we do then? What are you going to do? And I think that's the issue that we have right now is I don't think they know.
And for them, it kind of works to go longer. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, if I can, I just thank you. I appreciate that nice little lead in, and just to kind of tie a bow onto what Congressman Riggleman just said is, I don't think people understand the population density there. I don't think people understand the religious conviction of the people there. They're still attached to this regime. They've had 50 years to prepare for this. 50 fucking years. The Shah was deposed and sent out of that country in 47 years ago. Canada had a central role to play to bring a lot of those people back. If you remember the movie Argo with Ben Affleck, which really kind of detailed Ken Turner and Canada's role in bringing these people back out of Iran after the Shah at the time, and the Shah's son, who's the Prince of Iran now, he's literally living in the United States, and he's on a social media tangent going, "Bring me back, bring me back, bring me back," and then the Trump regime's on this social media tangent with him going, "The Shah's coming back. We're going to set those people free." But the problem is that beyond the social media and the perception of this that they're trying to use for obvious reasons, which is election reform in the United States, which we'll get to in just a second, which is to paint Donald Trump as a strongman who's going to put this, right in that center of the world, and the Middle East can be. Iran is now attacking 9 different countries in the Middle East. They're at war with 9 separate countries, and the U.S. interest in those 9 separate countries that belong to Donald Trump and the United States and the Trump regime. So when we sit here and we have this conversation about, what's going to happen and different predictions, and I side with Denver because his predictions are based on facts, not conspiracy, which is very fucking important, which is one of the benefits of being friends with a guy who, is an AI czar that understands patterns, that reads tech, that understands AI, but also has access to, what Donald Trump did on January 6th, whether or not it's text messages or whether or not it's emails, the entire plan. This is January 6th over in Iran. This is a group of completely unqualified fucking morons that are trying to do something that they have no idea what to do, and they've gutted the U.S. military brain trust over the past year. And you literally have morons doing the business of literal deathly professionals that take this job incredibly seriously, like Mr. Riggleman, Congressman Riggleman used to do. And so when we sit and listen to him explain to us what the issue is in Iran, and we have people going, yeah, well, we got rid of the Khomeini. Well, that's great. That's good. Then they got rid of the next Khomeini. That's great. That's good. And then Donald Trump admitted today that he's like, well, the guys that we had kind of tapped to take over the country that were still in the fucking regime, we accidentally killed those guys too. And to that point, Denver, there is no plan outside of the perception of what this regime is doing, along with Netanyahu, both men in severe trouble domestically as well.
Agreed. I mean, when Lindsey Graham comes up and says there's no plan from a senator who's that close to Trump, you do arch your eyebrows. And when you have other Republicans are like, that is not a great look for the United States of America. We bombed them. We killed Khomeini. It's now up to the Iranians, but we're going to still bomb them.
Yeah, even more.
I think that's their plan. Yeah, even more, Seth, right?
Yeah.
Even more.
I'm going to be a conspiracy theorist here because, it's kind of out there is, if you're having a war.
Denver, just so you know.
I'm ready. I'm ready, Sam.
If you're having a war, it's a good way to avoid, domestic policy issues. It's a good way to avoid Epstein. It's a good way to avoid a whole lot of things. If you're engaged in a war, you might even be able to do what Vladimir Zelensky and Donald Trump, I remember him suggesting this to Zelensky at that meeting, if you have a war, you don't need to have elections. You can cancel elections.
He was peaked. Remember that? And Trump's
Yeah.
like, really?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I was like, that's a good idea. I like that one. I mean, I'm not saying that's the reason they went in, but it kind of is the reason they went in.
There are three things here, and I think, the Epstein files people want to talk about. I have to agree. I don't think you're being conspiratorial. I think you're talking about domestic politics influencing foreign policy. I think there's a big difference between criminal conspiracies and strategic decisions that could be damaging, where you have a president who is he's on the moron line, right? He's cunning, right? But he's going to take a bunch of yes men. But I think what he was told, the CIA told him no, that as soon as Khomeini was killed, and Zev, I actually have a point to this, you're going to love it. As soon as Khomeini was killed, that was going to be easy for regime change. And CIA said, that's ridiculous. But the people around him like, no, it's going to be like just taking Maduro. You're going to be cool. That's what they're telling him. But here's what he was looking at, I think. He was looking at a few things. Number one, as soon as this happened, he puts out that Iran was part of trying to steal the 2020 and 2024 elections. So that's not a conspiracy theory. Honestly, Zev, he said it.
Yeah.
It's very difficult not to look at that and go, oh, okay, so that isn't an assumption. We bomb Iran. And he said, well, yeah, they tried to steal the 20 and 2024 elections. Okay, that's a data point. That data point means to me that it looks a lot like what happened in January 6th when they talked about foreign interference to slow roll the elections. And then they put out a 17-page draft EO that talks about that exactly in the week that we actually bomb Iran. So, Zev, that's not conspiratorial. You have data points. Okay. Number three, polling. His polling is in the shitter. And I think that's another thing he thought is like, hey, I can do another quick strike. We had nothing happen on the Venezuela strike. It's going to be love, light, and lollipops. I can't imagine how it's going to go wrong against 92 million individuals.
Crazy.
Not like right. I mean, it's there's no adults in the room. So I think when you have data points, I don't think it's conspiratorial. I think you're looking at exactly what's coming out of their mouth and them changing their story in real time. You start to think, well, maybe there were other reasons. Maybe there's other rationale. And even when you look at it from intelligence analysis, I think it's a smart look. I think because when you have no real reason to go in, if it's not to stop their nuclear program, if it's not for the preemptive attack, which the Pentagon just scuttled today. I don't know if you guys saw that there was no indications of a preemptive attack. Everything they said was a lie.
There's nothing imminent at all. It's like UAE. What is it? What was in the last Gulf War? I can't remember the term that Colin Powell went in there and did his whole spiel about
weapons of mass
destruction. Sorry,
yeah,
I just lost it there. But it's the same thing. There's nothing that didn't exist, and this doesn't exist. There was no imminent threat of anything. What you point out about the population size, there are 90 million odd Iranians. If there's 30%. Supported the Ayatollah. 30% were deeply supportive of the Ayatollah, very much like 30% of Americans support MAGA. That's it's 30 million people thereabouts. That's a lot of people who are very careful about what they believe and are devoutly, supportive of that kind of leadership, theocracy or whatever you want to call it. That's what they were doing over there. That's not going to be that's going to be easy to suppress. You can't suppress 30 million people who believe in an idea. I mean, that's just not about chopping off the head of
with their lives.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right, Denver, and you've studied these groups, you've studied the ideology of the hardline extremist Muslims, specifically the Ayatollah. You understand what's at stake here. It's not just 30 million people, Denver and Zev, that have a specific, set of belief systems. Oh, sorry, here we go. Hang on. Sorry, there we go. We're back. You're talking about 25 million that are part of, if I can't remember the name, the Bafsha. You're talking about 25 million volunteers, hardline Muslim volunteers, that are currently in Iran and armed and ready to die with a pipe bomb or a suicide vest or a fucking rifle. Give them a rock. They'll go out and fight on behalf of their religion. That is how intensely trained and propagandized these people are. Then you attach the afterlife and martyrdom, which is a big deal in that area of the world, Denver. And we're not talking about 30 million people that just show up for protests, are we? We're talking about 30 million people who will show up with guns, ready to sacrifice themselves on boats, on hang gliders, like we saw on October 7th. We're talking about people who fucking mean it, right?
We do. And, You got to, people forget that Iran is a massive state-sponsored terrorism group, right? Organization, what they do, like for Shia militia groups and things of that nature. So again, I just find it a little interesting that we thought it was going to be a walk in the park this quickly. Yeah, we said we might have obliterated them with a few bombs with their nuclear stockpile and things like that, or their ability to build nuclear weapons. But the thing is, when you actually go in serious and you assassinate the head of state, and I can go into all of that too, because once you assassinate one head of state, your head of state becomes vulnerable, which has been one of the reasons why you try not to assassinate heads of state. It's just one of those things, right? And I think that's another issue that we have, is that to go in and assassinate the head of state has put this at a level I don't think we quite understand. We didn't kill Maduro. I don't think people realize there's a huge difference between taking somebody and literally destroying them, annihilating them, right, with a penetrating bunker buster. And I think that has changed the scope of this to where now some people believe this is a fight to the death. And when I say some, I mean millions, just like Dean pointed out.
Trump said the other day that it was, he got Khomeini before Khomeini got him, alluding that there was some sort of, assassination plot, and there was, to try and kill the president, supported by the Iranians. So that is in fact true. But it reminded me of that first Kuwait invasion, the first Gulf War, where George Bush, the son, went after Iraq for what was an assassination attempt against his father, if I'm not mistaken. And that was the premise, and one of the premises for that war. We're sort of seeing the same sort of wag the dog kind of scenarios show up again and again and again when Republican presidents are in power. Am I just misreading the pattern here? But it does look to me like when that happens, George Bush, I'm trying to think of where Donald Trump, of course, but in the other wars that we've been in, it's always been Republican presidencies that have led us into these wars, and they all seem to be led by some sort of wag the dog kind of scenario where you've got Israel or some other player helping them along in this decision to ignite a war.
I think it's a great question. And I wish I was sitting in the room when they made these decisions, but they won't let anybody with an IQ over 80 in the rooms now in the White House. So, so I wish that, I could have done that. But I think what you're looking at, Zev, is you're looking for a search for a reason to do that, or some kind of rationalization, again, of why they attacked Iran. And it goes back to your original point, Zev. You thought you were sounding conspiratorial. It's just really difficult not to take exactly the words that they're saying and say, well, maybe they mean what they're saying. You only have the data points that the government's going to give you unless you're looking at data that's coming in from the battlefield, or you're looking at other types of leaked data, or you're looking at things of that nature, right? Or maybe source data that's coming from the media. You only have so much that you can pick and choose from. And so if somebody comes out, if they actually come out and they say, listen, he tried to kill me, I got him first. Well, it was about the nuclear program, or it's about a preemptive strike. And as you knock down all these other things, you're getting down to the base to like, well, why did we attack them? Well, maybe it's because Israel and Saudi Arabia gave me a phone call. Maybe the fact that we have that validated reporting, now we're starting to get data points like, okay, are we just a massive combat arm for MBS and BB right now? Mm-hmm. Is that what we are? I mean, and the fact is what he already did with Qatar, right, by enriching himself in Qatar and by the deals that he's making. And I don't know if you guys saw that Eric or Don Jr. just announced they're building another Trump Tower somewhere in Qatar or something like that. So you have all this happening simultaneously. So now you're taking these data points and you're like, okay, so is this about personal enrichment? Is it not just about the Epstein files, right? Is it not just, these weird things that you might come up with because they've said it, or is it not just about, these little things he's talking about right down the line with polling? Is it not about the proposed executive order for elections? Is it not about, are we talking about economic? Is it economic, right? Is he trying to personally enrich himself again? You can only go with what you have with the data that you have. But if the data is mismanaged by the federal government and they can't get their story straight, and think about what I'm saying here, they can't get their story straight, you would think that they would have a strategic objective, mission, and talking points all the way from the National Command Authority all the way to the combatant commands, where you have the press individuals doing the same messaging every day. This is why we're doing it. This is we're doing it. But now you have the Pentagon disagreeing with the White House. Their messaging is disagreeing with the DOD. That message doesn't really seem to be transferring to the combatant commanders. You got freaking our own airplanes being shot out of the sky. And now you're starting to think this looks like just a confused mess with somebody who made a chaotic decision based on some kind of personal predilection that we haven't been able to nail down yet. I think that's where we're at right now as you're talking about people that are sane.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. Let me ask you a question too, Dan, if I can. You know, we talked, you showed us a little bit earlier, like foreign policy somehow always comes back to domestic issues, right? Domestic policy. We are literally watching an end run for 2026. We're watching the beginnings of an end run for 2028. And I want to talk about this 17-page memo that really fits into any sort of military goodwill that we might see for the Trump regime that comes out of this, depending on who's really happy, who's really sad that the Ayatollah is dead and the United States have actually attacked Iran. And then the tweet that he put out today to attach it to this memorandum, or the Truth Social post that he put out the other day, which said, hey, as you pointed out, Iran interfered in 2020 and 2024 on top of the other excuses. But there are real teeth that are put into this 17-page document, which you have in front of you, that you've popularized a little bit to help us understand what Iran means to the midterms and what Iran and what's going on in Iran, and this ridiculous notion that Donald Trump attacked Iran to help people or to safeguard the United States, because this is literally a point that you brought up the other day when we were chatting, and this 17-page memo that you have in front of you. Maybe you can shed some light on that memo that helps us understand how this affects what Donald Trump intends to possibly, not possibly, probably do to Americans in the United States because of what he decided to do to Iran the other day.
No, and talking to you and Zev, you know, it's almost to the point I feel like I need a 6-week course on the translation from the 2021 conspiracy theories to foreign interference election pipeline to the day. You know, it's so, but it's actually sort of easy. You know, in 2016, Roger Stone started this whole stop the steal stuff because they thought they were going to lose to Hillary Clinton. That's really where it started, right? That there was foreign interference in the elections and it had to be China. China's been sort of this thread throughout this whole thing until we got to the Venezuela Maduro stuff. I'm sorry, the Venezuela Chavez stuff, the broken algorithms. But I don't know if you guys remember the Italian satellite conspiracy theory.
Oh, yeah.
So was it Italy?
Oh, yeah.
Or was it the Chinese servers? Yeah. Was it Chinese servers? Do you guys remember the German server farms? Do you remember that they were going to attack the German server farms in Germany? Because that's right. Actually Yeah, I know, Zev. I bring up these people like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it's Italy, it's China, it's Venezuela, it's Germany, right? And by the way, do you guys know there was an Air Force general named Thomas McInerney, 3-star general, and he said it was an NSA secret program called Hammer and Scorecard. That's actually what it was. But you know what? It was the deep state and the globalists that were actually manipulating that. So it could have come from China also, or you know what? It could have come from Russia too. Right. So now we have China, Russia, NSA as part of it. Then they talked about CIA, right? And that the CIA was really behind it because they were trying to cover up the death of Osama bin Laden because it was actually a body double. Donald Trump actually retweeted that. So these are just some of the conspiracy theories that you have out there. And my God, my head's exploding. So by the way, there's this executive order called 13848 that was signed September 20, 2018. That was talking about foreign interference. That was actually built because they said Russia tried to come in on the 2016 elections. I even know the two professionals that helped in the writing of it, Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor. Right. So here we go, right? So this executive order, 13848, that was one of the reasons they thought Pence should object to the electors. Wow. Right. And now this is after all the conspiracy theories, guys. If I go through all the conspiracy theories, this is a 5-hour show and we don't have time to talk about Chinese bamboo ballots right now. Okay. So, all right. So anyhow, so then after there was a meeting in the White House, December 18th, between 3 major people and some others, right? Patrick Byrne, the CEO of Overstock and the Nutter, right? Yeah. Mike Flynn and Sidney Powell. They were snuck in by a guy named Garrett Ziegler. Garrett Ziegler being the guy who released the Hunter Biden laptop contents and said that Hunter Biden is the right. It's all the same folks, right, guys? Yeah. Anyway, we can go into all the conspiracy theories and the nutters out there that are grifting and making money and mining the ignorant. And now we have all this bizarre stuff going on in our government. Anyhow, Sidney Powell builds a draft executive order on December 20th that generalizes, makes it easier to seize voting machines and have military come in and take over voting. They thought they could do that with the original executive order signed by Trump. Well, guess what? There's a new one. They're going to call it EO 14248. Here it is. And these 17-page executive order talks about China and other things stealing the election, but I want to read you guys some chilling sentences from the first line. I created Executive Order 142848 that, among other security measures, initiated review of voting machines and voter rolls, which underscored severe threats and the need for emergency measures. What this means, gentlemen, is that they're saying that the stuff that happened in 2020 was true and it was never properly addressed. Holy shit, conspiracy theories. They're saying the conspiracy theories of 2021 are the reason for this document because the elections were actually stolen. It gets worse. Why they're doing this constitutes an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. It gets worse. Since the inception of EO 13848 in 2018, federal and state oversight, including the judiciary, has been unable to effectively mitigate these remote election threats and secure the electronic election infrastructure. Guys, this is absolutely nationalizing the elections. Now, if you look back through ballot creation and casting and voter eligibility, you're like, well, it doesn't sound so bad until you read it. And then you start going through this, you're like, guys, there's 17 pages of changes in provisional in-person voting, absentee ballot request processing, absentee ballot return delivery, absentee ballot processing, provisional absentee ballot processing, vote counting, precinct results reporting, county results reporting, certification, ballot custody chain, transparency and verifiability, election challenges, additional security measures, and then remedies to remove emergency status.
This really does come down to what Putin allegedly told Trump. You know, it's not who voted for you, it's who counts the votes. And
who counts the votes.
It's who counts the votes. This is chilling what you're saying, Denver. This is a EO proposal being circulated by activists, I guess, is what they're calling them. It's not yet.
Well, it's actually a guy named Peter Tipton.
Yeah.
There's a guy who went to school with Trump. He was an attorney. But what's interesting is that Trump goes, well, I never heard of this. Well, he's the same guy who said he never heard of Project 2025. And now he says that's sort of the guiding, light of his administration with Russ Vought and those kind of guys. So again, the fact that this draft executive order was leaked and the fact that the fact of was leaked to major multiple publications is indicative of them seeding the ground, right, to let people know that this is the direction that they're going. And this helps their far-right influencers start to seed the ground also. And that's why this is exactly the same playbook from 2020 and 2021 in the stolen election conspiracy theories.
That is really chilling. I mean, there's no other way to look at that. I mean, and there's also very little that's going to stop them. I mean, if you think about it, there's not not enough votes in the House, I don't think, to stop them. And there's really, the courts are the only thing that could really put an end to this kind of fantasy dream or fever dream that they have, that they can somehow steal the elections again. But let's be honest, they were successful before, twice now, as far as I can tell. Are they going to? Is the pattern going to change now? It's not really going to change.
Well, I think there's two things here, and there's courses of action. And again, I try to be very specific. I'm not quite as exciting some days because I do the courses of action. It could be they release this just to chill people, to disenfranchise voters. Number two, what I tell people, it's not about all 50 states. They only have to target certain swing districts and counties, right? They can say it's just this county in Michigan. It's just this county in Arizona. It's just this county in Georgia, right? Everything else is great, but the Chinese were in here. They were all over here. They weren't over. They were over here. So I think that's the issue that I have, but I don't want people to panic. Like all of a sudden we're going to have, some military individuals at picket lines, or you're going to have DHS or ICE, but there's a possibility. And that's what they wanted when they wanted Pence to object to the electors. And I tell people that all roads led to Pence when they failed in their court challenges. Sidney Powell and the Kraken lawsuits. That's why there was so much pressure on Pence, because if he objected to the electors, we were in the worst constitutional crisis since Civil War. There's no way around it. I think what they're trying to really, I would say, penetrate into the psyche of U.S. citizens this chaotic look at what's happening to elections, and that with the SAVE Act going the way of the dodo, this is actually the next. So just like the Kraken stuff failed and they went to Pence, the SAVE Act is going to fail. Now they're going to draft executive orders, and so it's this. Zev, my mind is just like,
all the same thing. Yeah,
it's the same freaking pattern, and it's. They came so close to succeeding the first time, but now there's no checks or balances on the president. There's no more of the lawyers like Cipollone or Hirsch surrounding the president to talk any type of sense to him. It's just nutters. So I don't know how that's going to look.
The electorate's not behind them. I mean, clearly we're seeing that they don't have the support. The polling has been terrible for the Republicans, and tomorrow will be a bellwether. I mean, tomorrow, what happens in Texas tomorrow will tell us a lot about what's going to happen in November. And then we're jumping ahead here in the countdown because we're not really doing a proper countdown today. But do you want
today?
It's. Oh, I didn't even hear what he said.
I think
just
Dean
frozen on us, Dean.
Yeah, Dean just froze on us.
But so hopefully you'll join us back in just a second. So just this is a huge election. The potential that a Texas seat can flip to Democrats would be a huge deal. The fact that Texas may even flip is a huge deal. That must be terrifying, this president. And a president who would do almost anything, including sending in everyone he did on January the 6th for that insurrection, is likely to do almost anything again. And he's partners in Russia, and he's partners in Saudi Arabia, and he's partners in Israel, will support all sorts of crazy stuff along the way. And when you're in a tinderbox, like we are in the Middle East with all this, with a war going on, anything can happen.
Anything. And, I find it interesting, Zev, the fact that you said that, I find it incredibly interesting that that when we're looking at the downflows, right, with the polling and things like that, I think their internal polls are worse. I think that's why you're seeing the nuttery going on. I've had polls where polls came out when I was running, and I'm like, oh, look, I'm up 17. Oh, yeah. And then our internal polls are like, no, we're not, D. we're up 5, right? We got to work, right? So I think that's what they're seeing, their internal polling, but I think they're seeing this lack of enthusiasm in their base. Texas is huge, Zev. Texas is huge. And I think that's something we really got to look into. If these specific elections flip, let's look at the percentages. That means the Texas Senate is in play. If Texas Senate in play, that means all the Senate seats are in play that are even close to the swing level, which means the Dems could take the Senate back. They're going to take the House. Yeah. If they take the House and the Senate, Trump is effectively done. And I think that's why you're seeing the panic right now.
Can I throw another conspiracy thing? Sorry, Dean, do you want to jump back in here because you?
No. You go ahead and throw a conspiracy thing.
Well, because the one thing that I'm sort of
knock those down
because I remember in doing all this research around Trump and Epstein and the whole Iran-Contra affair. Now, it's not a surprise that we're back with Iran all these years later. And this whole thing really started, if you're looking for a beginning point of the Trump-Epstein network, it was the Iran-Contra affair. It was Khashoggi, and it was Maxwell, and it was Ari Ben Menashe, and they were busy selling arms to the Iranians, which they weren't meant to do, and exchanging arms with the Contras for drugs and whatever. That was the whole scandal. And yet here we are yet again at the conclusion maybe of this whole story, and it's Iran again. Is that weird? Is that just or is it the same players have been involved all the way through this entire thing?
Yeah, and how's Ollie North? Go ahead.
How is Ollie North?
How is Ollie North? Not knowing enough about all the interconnectivity between Epstein and Iran-Contra, it's hard for me to answer that, but I can tell you this. Iran has always been sort of the cut line since 79. We know that since the hostages. I mean, usually it's the bad countries that come back. When I tell people about this, we're like, well, it's always the same countries. And Zev, again, it could be, right? But I'd like to go between the possible and the probable here. I think the possible is that maybe, right, there's some kind of thread here all the way through that. I think the probable, when you're looking at percentages, is that Iran was an easy target as far as Trump was concerned in this specific environment. And I think he really did think once they killed Khomeini that it would be just like the Venezuela situation. And I think they sadly and awfully miscalculated. And It always comes back to Iran. It always comes back to same countries that are state-sponsored terrorist countries, like Iran. And I think Iran's been in the wheelhouse since '79. And I think really it looked like a target of opportunity after he said he obliterated their nuclear program. And then when he had Israel and Saudi Arabia call him, maybe there was some backdoor deal we don't know about that incentivized him to do so, and that's why he did it. I think that's maybe more likely.
I have a question for you too. I have a question for you because, in terms of it being more likely, like I don't think Donald Trump has the scrote to go after Iran to cover up what he did 50 years ago or 45 years ago. I just don't think he does. But I want to talk about the goodwill that comes from this, from many different areas of the world, knowing that the Khomeini's dead, knowing that the IRGRC is being attacked, knowing that, a hardline, dictatorial, murderous regime is getting its ass handed to them by two countries that have said in the past, that we're here for democracy, and I know that in Israel, Netanyahu is to the Israeli people, the Jewish people, what Donald Trump is in the United States to Americans. He is looked at as a dictator. He is looked at as, pardon the word, but a fascist, an authoritarian who's trying to skate on other issues that he has. Donald Trump is doing the exact same thing. So to me, this is a crime of opportunity for Trump and Netanyahu. But I want to get to something that you said earlier, because the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, say what you want about the ownership of both of those rags, but they put out some pretty interesting reporting recently, to your point, that said, hey, Saudi Arabia, MBS, was lobbying Donald Trump to attack Iran. Netanyahu was lobbying Donald Trump to attack Iran. And as most things, if you know anything about Donald Trump, usually the last person in his ear to tell him what he gets from any kind of action is the person that wins, right? And I want to lean into that a little bit, Denver, because it's hard to explain to people. I was talking to Lev about this earlier. And, for Iran to be at war with traditional allies, traditional religious, military allies, cultural allies right now, and then to find out that MBS has been in Trump's ear to go, hey, go attack those guys. To find out that Israel has been in Trump's ear is less, revelatory in this list of people that have told Trump, hey, do us a favor, take out the Khomeini and take out Iran. But those are the reports that we're getting. Can you kind of cascade that for us and explain it if you can?
I can. It's interesting when we talk about data points and the difference between conspiracy theories and criminal conspiracies. I think there's a big difference in those. So if you have data points to prove one thing, that could be a criminal conspiracy, right? If you're talking like I got abducted by an alien Bigfoot, that's a little different, right? That's an extraordinary claim that demands extraordinary evidence. So if you're looking at what's going on, what's the past performance on Trump? The Cutter jet, right? New Air Force One. How about all the real estate deals? How about his personal enrichment since he's been, $3 billion since he's been president? That's increased as well. You beat me to it, Zev, right? I was going to go, then you have Kushner, right? Well done, right? Then you have Kushner and you're looking at, so he has these family deals and specific deals that deal with him, with the Middle East, where he's enriched himself and his family. And now you just have the last real estate deal just actually announced by his family while he's president. Wow. So I guess I would be less surprised, Dean, if this wasn't for personal enrichment, right? And it was actually for the American people, right? It's because that is the data. That is the past performance. This is a man who used the United States to enrich himself. That's what he does.
But why do the Saudis want Trump to attack Iran? Like, that's the question I would have for you.
To attack Iran? Well, you're talking about actually oil refinement also, and you have the Straits of Hormuz. I mean, Saudi actually having a say in what's going on in Iran. Are you kidding me? Plus, you also have the Shia-Sunni issues. I don't think people really, there's also so many religious issues, but it's actually economic. It's always about the money, right? So this is about the money. So it's going to be refinement. It's going to be oil. It's going to be control. It's going to be geographic control. This is about Saudi being the big dog in the Middle East, my friends.
Yeah, and Iran was supporting the Yemenis, the war on the other side of the Yemen for the Saudis were fighting against. So that was a big issue for them too, and really upset them. So that's another factor. But it's interesting
another factor.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not that surprised that we're here. We have a transactional president who values what happens to him first. and he's been able to paint that in some kind of "Make America Great Again." With a huge voting bloc that believes the propaganda and disinformation. Sadly, I have 1 minute or 2 minutes before I do have to go to my 4 o'clock, and I apologize to both of you. I would rather stay and do this right now. It's so much fun. But, so I think this is about about geographical control. It's about economies of scale, but it is about, I think, personal enrichment of certain individuals that might be involved in this bombing of Iran.
Shocker. Denver Riggleman, ladies and gentlemen. I need everybody to give him a follow. He's got to go.
Sadly,
one
this
of
was
the
awesome.
Great. Yeah, dude, I fucking love having you here. I mean, where else do you get someone who's put warheads on foreheads in Tora Bora to explain to you how this whole thing fucking works, right? Like, and
No, you guys are brilliant.
Someone who knows the people. Now, dude, you are too. And I want to thank you so much for your time. You get out of here and go do the real business.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Which is your
And it
own
was an
business.
honor
Thank you so
to
much,
be with you
Denver.
today.
It's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thanks for being here.
I got you.
Denver Riggleman, former congressman, leaving the show right there. So nice to have someone like him on. And he's so smart.
Isn't it great?
Yeah,
Well,
really smart.
like, listen, one of the things that, like, we can chop it up here all day long, and I love, like everybody else, I love the attention. I love the fact that we have so many people that rely on us for information. But one of the things that's really important to Zeb and myself is that we bring stakeholders and experts into these conversations. Like, we can sit here and talk about the morality of an issue. We can talk about the logistics of an issue. We can talk about the conspiratorial aspects of any of these issues. We can do that all day. But to center ourselves, we got to be around people who are fact-based, people who understand the rules of engagement, people who have done that job, people who have trained people on F-15s, B-52s, to Denver's greater point, people that have put warheads on foreheads of people like we're seeing happen in Iran for the United States of America when its reputation was golden and solid. Because they can walk us through the moral exercise, but Denver, a guy like Denver can walk us through the actual logistical aspects of this. And it's very difficult for all of us to get a handle on what's going on around the world, specifically in Iran with what's happening, because there is a lot of political, religious goodwill for the end of the Iranian regime.
Yeah.
Zev. There is. And it's hard.
No one's going to argue against that. It's just no one likes the regime. It's been a burden to the world. It's been a terror sponsor. There's nothing good that happens out of the Iranian regime.
No.
In fact, it's been a very useful foil for the rest of the world too. Like, it's been good to have it as an enemy, and it's the kind of thing that I just feel like they could have waited on this. This didn't have to happen this week. There was nothing imminent. There was nothing that meant that this should happen right now. The only reasons it would have to happen right now is because of domestic issues, because of polling issues, because, it seemed like the right thing to do in order to maintain this presidency that's on the ropes. And that's the problem. It's not really, everyone can agree that, the Ayatollah was a bad dude. Yeah, we know that. Maybe should have been removed from power a long time ago. We know that. But, this is domestic wag the dog territory that we're in. This is really... them just starting a war because, hey, we don't care about them. I feel for these military personnel who are like having to make these decisions on top of actually fighting the war. They've got to decide whether they're following legal orders, whether they're following ethical orders, whether they're, are they fighting a war for a good reason or a bad reason? And clearly this is not a war that's motivated by the right intention.
No. Not only is it not motivated by the right intention, it's being conducted by a guy who drafted the dodged the Vietnam draft several times with notes from his doctor. A guy who called John McCain and prisoners of war a loser. A guy who stood up today, and I want you to play that clip one more time if you have it. And the reason why I want you to play the clip is I want you to listen to the gusto behind this incredibly sick fuck. That's what Donald Trump is. He's an incredibly sick fuck who has no idea what he's talking about, has no idea what he's done, just did some shit so that he could enrich himself and hide some information from the rest of you. And the reason why he's doing it is because this fucking guy is on his last legs. If you can play the clip, I want you to watch
the strongest and most powerful by far military in the world, and we will easily prevail. We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always, and we have right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it. Whatever somebody said today, they said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly. After that, he'll get bored. I don't get bored.
That is a man who is bucket listing shit at this point.
Yeah.
That is a sick, unwell, dying president who doesn't give a shit who dies, specifically the 4 service people who died, specifically from what I understand, which is now 12 service people and close to 40 individual U.S. servicemen and women who have been injured severely or otherwise, because they're lying about that too, from our best estimate. And he's standing there going, I'm gonna do this as long as it takes. And he can't talk, and he's
breathing
stumbling.
heavily,
And I don't know if he's like doing one of these in the middle of it, like my grandpa did when we go to Sunny Acres group home, and in between sentences, he would make the same fucking noises.
Yeah, no, it really is.
That man is
really not well.
Sick. And so if you think that he's going to exercise any kind of compunction to do the right thing in the long-term best interest of the United States, when the only thing he gives a fuck about before the lights go out in Trump Central, you're crazy.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
I want to play you another clip from Hexeth today, because talk about moronic. I mean, this guy is in charge of the armed forces as the start of this war is taking place. Let's listen to Hexeth.
Thus far, and
Sorry.
this is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. As the president warned, an effort of this scope will include casualties. War is hell, and always will be. A grateful nation honors the 4 Americans we have lost thus far and those injured. The absolute best of America.
But the thing is, it is potentially another Iraq, and it is potentially another endless war, and it is all the things he says it's not, and it is about regime change without a plan, without an idea of what to do on day one. Like, I mean, yeah, they got rid of the guy, but if it's true what you were saying, was you or Denver was saying about the next in line being shot as well, or being killed as well, they did have a deal. You know, the president has had deals with the IRGC for a long time. The Baku Trump Hotel was funded by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. So he knows the people in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, as does Ivanka, who, by the way, was in charge of that project. So Ivanka knows all the people there, and I'm sure they're familiar with all sorts of people there. But if they had killed the people they had next in line in succession during that meeting, who knows if they've really got a secure second-tier plan, if they have a plan for the next day.
They have no plan. And that's the whole point, right? Like, you know, the news that we're getting today isn't that they just like fucking decapitated the IGRC. They decapitated the people that they had been working with and had warned, according to our sources, had warned these people, hey, stay out of harm's way, stay out of these areas. And they killed them too. And Donald Trump was asked about that today. He goes, yeah, the people that we tapped to take over Iran, we killed them too. So we don't know what the plan is. And then Lindsey Graham today came out and he's like, there's no plan other than awesomeness, guys. We're so awesome. We're showing you our awesomeness. And everybody's sitting around here going, really? You just legitimately opened up generational terroristic trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. And those 30 million people, 25 million people.
Every asset of the United States in the region and at home. And let's talk about sleeper cells. You know, we saw something happen in Texas yesterday, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
There's a mass shooting in Texas. Guy is really pissed off at what went on in Iran. If you think that's the only sleeper cell out there, you're crazy. That's what that guy was. And it's not just in the United States. These Iranian sleeper cells have been practicing and getting ready for this for 47 fucking years, since 1979. Denver pointed that out. This isn't just about what goes on in Iran. This is about what goes on around the world, because like most countries who hate the West, who hate democracy, who hate capitalism, who use, Muslim hardline bullshit to go and propagandize and radicalize people to stick pipe bombs up their assholes and or put on vests to walk into fucking medical clinics to explode those. They've been working at this for 50 years. Do you know how fucking unprepared the West is for this? Do you know what he has done?
Yeah.
Every major Western country city is going to be a target, not just for sleeper cells, but for anybody in any group of hardline Muslim, propaganda, any radicalized group around the world to go after assets that belong to the West. This isn't just about going after Donald Trump's assets in the Palms or in UAE.
No, we're seeing it every
going
day.
after American service
They're
people
taxing the
in
bases,
fucking
all of
Bahrain.
it.
Absolutely. This is about how do we fucking kill anybody who believes in capitalism today.
And what a
So Donald
great
Trump
way.
just hasn't opened up the United States to this. He's opened up every other country to this as well.
What a great way to harm America's reputation if by luring them to another war in the Middle East. I mean, I can't believe we're actually seeing the same play again. But for Israel and for Russia and for a variety of other forces, Saudis as well, this is perfect. This is exactly what they intended to do when they got Donald Trump elected for the first time. And now the second time, they wanted to draw him into yet another conflict in the Middle East, because you know what? That's a great way to drain the resources out of a country, to drain the morale out of a country, to absolutely embed your own personnel inside their forces, like they did in Afghanistan and other places. This is a gold mine for any Middle East country that is going to be coming to America for more support for their military bases in Qatar or Bahrain or wherever it is that they need those military bases. It'll just be a drain on the American economy in the same way that the second Gulf War was, the same way the first Gulf War was. I mean, this is just going to be another way for the Middle East to get richer while Americans lose blood on the battlefields in the Middle East. And that's just the reality. It's the same playbook over and over and over again.
Yeah, and that playbook is a mirage, right? How do we create these mirage? And I was reminded of that this weekend, and I think a good place to end the 5-stack, even though it was like a 2.5/3 stack today, so everybody can get on with their day. And I put a post about it. I was listening to the Beastie Boys this weekend. I was running around the house, and Sabotage came on from Ill Communication, one of my favorite albums of all time. And the lyrics made me stop with a Swiffer in my hand, literally. And I'm like, oh my God, these guys are talking about Donald Trump 30 years before Trump. I'm going to read you the lyrics. And this is really fucking prescient shit. It's really important. I can't stand it. I know you planned it. I'm going to set us straight this Watergate. I can't stand rocking when I'm in here because your crystal ball ain't so crystal clear. So why you sit back and wonder why I got this fucking thorn in my side? Oh my God, it's a mirage. I'm telling y'all, it's sabotage. So listen up, because you can't say nothing. You'll shut me down with the push of your button. But yo, I'm out and I'm gone. Now I'll tell you now, I'll keep it on and on, because what you see, you might not get. And we can bet, so don't stop. Don't get souped yet. Scheming on a thing that's a mirage, I'm trying to tell you, it's sabotage. Let me read those last two lines again. Scheming on a thing that's a mirage, I'm trying to tell you now, it's sabotage. MCA, Ad Rock, Adam Yauch, all these guys. They're a group of Jewish rappers from Brooklyn who understood that the government was not their friend. Same with the guys from Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello, Zach De La Rocha. They understood that. Through music, we kind of are starting to understand, and I think a lot of people are rediscovering these songs as anthemic. This is a mirage. What you're being fed, the fact that they want to push that button to shut you up, the fact that they're trying to sabotage the United States, your relationship with Canada, your relationship, your reputation. It is on. The Beastie Boys called this fuck in 1994. I mean, you can't. Our backs are against the wall. Listen, all y'all, it's a sabotage. I know you planned it. I'm gonna set it straight. This Watergate. They were that specific about political interference, that specific about making you look the other way, that specific about what it is that you're up against. In 1994, it's 2026, 1994. That's when it came out. Yeah.
I was talking a little bit about it. That's brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. When I was talking about Iran Contra affair. And what preceded the Iran-Contra affair was the Iran-Iraq war. There was a war between Iran and Iraq. And Israel and America decided to sponsor both sides of that war. That's the reason for the Iran-Contra affair. And the thing about sponsoring both sides of a war is you can control the outcome, but it's very useful for domestic policy influence, for creating the look of a crisis, even when there isn't a crisis. And, Putin loves the strategy. He loves controlling both sides of a war because then he can figure out who the winner is when he wants to, and it's done. And we're seeing the same thing here again, where it's clear that America and Israel have influence inside the Iranian Revolutionary Guard that is quite big. Probably they always have. The RGC maybe has been a tool of the Israeli government for a long period of time. And so that is why they were able to do this with a sort of certainty and bravado that they went in there to say, hey, we can kill the Ayatollah. We've got both sides and we know what's going to happen. The reality of it is going to be different, of course, because there are 90 million, 82 million people there, whatever it is. They have
93
views.
million.
Yeah, they have views.
Dude, they don't. And the people that have the most hardened views, they already have guns. They've got weapons, and they will drive a fucking boat full of explosives into a super tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. They will show up to any place that they've been told to, and they will die for that cause. America doesn't have those soldiers. America doesn't have those kinds of people. America does not have people who will show up, with their weapon and go, hey, what do you want me to do? And if your general or your major, or your lieutenant or your captain or your corporal says, hey, I need you to get in this boat filled with C4 and drive it right into that tanker, soldiers are going to say no. In Iran, 30 million of them will go, no problem.
Yeah.
Flip me the keys.
Because America is the invader. I mean, clearly that's what America's done is it's invaded that country. It's killed the leader, which is not something that's done in the world. That is the FiveStack today. Thank you for being here. It's been a show dedicated to the Iran war, but it's certainly try to touch on some of these other things. Dean, your coverage this weekend was phenomenal at deanblendell.substack.com. Watched a lot of it. And your reporting about the Beastie Boys, I got to say, that story is phenomenal. And everyone can check it out at deanblendell.substack.com. It's really, really good stuff.
Greatest anthemic song for 2026, Beastie Boys, Sabotage. I know you planned it. I'm going to set it straight. This Watergate, let's set this straight together, everybody. And don't forget, go to narrative.org today. My friend Zev Shalev, it's Zev Shalev time. I think that's what we have to say. It's Zev Shalev time. And when I say it's Zev Shalev time, my friend Zev has been on this heater for 10 years, quietly, privately, reporting about Epstein. Not just reporting about Epstein, but reporting about all of the things that go into where we're at today. And your latest on the Ayatollah and the Revolutionary Guard remaining there and the information that you have there, the new analysis piece that you put out yesterday, I would highly encourage everybody to read it because it gives you some real cool context. Not only is his greatest high series seminal, everybody should read it, but the latest on the Ayatollah being dead and what that means to the Revolutionary Guard, who's left behind, the plug and play aspects of this regime is must read material for everybody who needs to understand what's going on in the Middle East, specifically in Iran right now. I hope I didn't do you dirty by stealing your thunder.
No, that's fantastic. Thanks for that endorsement. By the way, the Epstein deposition transcripts have not been released yet. The videos have not been released yet. It's been 5 days. They should have come out in 24 hours. And I know that's going to be an issue you're going to pick on at deanblendell.substack.com. There is something going on with what they've done with these transcripts, and where are they? Why aren't we hearing from Bill and Hillary Clinton directly from them in an unedited way about what they said about Donald Trump? And that was all interrupted by an attack on Iran and the death of the Ayatollah Khamenei.
Strangely enough, and listen, one more thing I will say to everybody. You can literally set your watch to the distraction wars that Donald Trump has started. He is now the most warmongering president in United States history. He has launched 626 bombing sorties on over 7 different countries, 3 of which the United States has never attacked. Never in the history of the United States. He's done this. So if you go to deanblendell.substack.com, there are no paywalls. If you appreciate the work, please subscribe. That'd be great. But if you go there, you can read about it because I actually have a tally and you can set your fucking watch to these attacks according to Epstein and his polling and job
Oh,
numbers.
can't wait to
in
see
the
that. That's
United
great.
States. Epstein
So-
polling job numbers.
It's all connected. It's just all connected. And all the players are connected. We'll explore all of that. And everyone should please subscribe to Denver Riggleman, who joined us for the hour today. It was just fantastic to have him on at Denver Riggleman. You see Substack. And Dean, we'll see you tomorrow on another FiveStack.
You got it, buddy. Thanks for
Cheers,
having
have a
me,
good
pal.
one.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.